Another eBay special here. This is a 100 LED string of LED lights designed to run from a USB port. And the reason I bought this, get them out. The reason I bought this was because I thought it would be a handy way of getting a large parallel array of LEDs for using for retrofitting to solar outdoor lights for creating strings of lights in the garden, because these tend to be quite waterproof, these little blob of resin type LEDs. So let's plug them into a USB power supply with a current monitor and see how they look. Very nice, I have to say. So at a voltage of 4.96 volts they're drawing 800 milliamp. Okay. So 800 milliamp, and I thought, well, that's a fairly straightforward concept here. It's really just a parallel string of LEDs, and it will probably just have the positive connected straight to there, and maybe a resistor in here to limit the current. But then you think about it, 800 milliamps is quite high, because it's dropping 2 volts theoretically, and that would require a resistance of, let's see, let's do the maths. P equals IV, so it would be 2 times 0.8. The power dissipation of the resistor would be 1.6 watts. The resistance itself would have to be, that would be 2 volts to drop divided by 0.8. It would have to be 2.5 ohms. And 1.6 watts is really quite high. And you look at the end of it, and there's nothing really bulky in there that would really have that sort of size of resistance. So I had another set, and I took it to bits. There's a surprise. And analysed it, and it turns out it's not just 2 wires going along this string, it's 3. And what's actually happening is, ignore this resistor here, the 5 volt connection actually just goes right up to the other end, should I say the negative connection, goes right up to the other end and just joins on there. So you're getting the positive is feeding from one end and the negative is feeding from the other. And I measured the resistance of this wire, which turned out to be 1.2 ohms, 2.5 there. So that means that the resistance and the return path through any of these LEDs will also be the 1.2 ohms. And when you've got the 100 LEDs spread along the circuit, that will distribute the current evenly amongst them. And effectively it means that if they were fed from one end, they would have been very bright at the beginning, but they would have got dimmer as they went along. And the first one would have seen maybe a bit too much current to compensate for that. But by connecting the one wire to one end and the other to the other, they effectively get even brightness along the full string. It's very clever, and also the wire is acting as the resistance. So it's a very neat design. So in the case of this end, they've got the negative here from the USB lead is the one that's actually just wrapped round, and it's missing the first LED. It's going all the way up to the other end. The positive is just connecting to the LEDs at this end, and the spare wire was just tucked into the heat shrink, unstripped, well, it's lacquered wire, so unrevealed of the copper, and then it was just heat shrinked over. And at the other end, the wire from the last LED, one of the parallel wires from the last LED, just goes into thin air, and the negative from the other end, the wire that's run all the way up, comes up to here and just joins onto one of the parallel wires that then runs back along the LEDs. So it's very, very neat. And these are a nice, these are the green ones. Let's see if I can get the wire right here. I'm going to have to dab things on. Ah, there we go. And they're really attractive, very bright. I wouldn't run them quite as bright as this. I don't think in my own application I'd run them much lower current. I've tried them in a bench meter to analyse how it would look if they were fed just from one end, and at lowish currents it looked fairly even, but at higher currents you ended up with a very bright LED at the front and a very dim LED at the end. But even running down to like 10 milliamps, they were still actually quite bright, even though there's 100 of them. That would only be 100 microamps each. So these look as though they're going to be quite fun to use out in the garden, just wrap round some branches here and there. Nice lights. Very good way to get them off eBay, just pre-packaged like this for the one long parallel string to. So if you want some of these, the keywords here are USB LED string, and you should find them.